So to get a better perspective of what exactly is going on and what role our country could play in this conflict, we're joined by Congressman Adam Smith. He is the chair of the Armed Services Committee. Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us, Representative Smith.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, the U.S. military has moved an aircraft carrier group closer to Israel in response to this Hamas attack. So what will determine the next steps for our military?
Well, the reason we're moving assets in the region is to protect U.S. interests. We have troops in Iraq and in Syria, and Iran is obviously part of this conflict. Iran has militias in both Iraq and Syria that could potentially target U.S. interests. So we move those forces there to protect those interests. We are not going to become directly involved in the military conflict with our troops.
Congressman, I think there's a lot of concern about how an attack like this could happen without any advance warning or intelligence. Do you have any insight on that, on the investigation into, how this started and how they were able to pull off something like this that's so deadly, such an horrific attack on Israel?
Yes, some insight, and I'm waiting to get more classified briefs when I get back to Washington, D.C. tomorrow, but it sounds like there was ample evidence of what Hamas was doing in Gaza. They were practicing along the border. Certainly it looked like something, but Israel, for whatever reason, determined that that it was more of a bluff than anything, that they weren't going to do that. So it sounds like Israel had the information, they misinterpreted it, and we need to figure out why.
And at least 11 Americans were killed in that strike, and even the possibility of more Americans possibly kidnapped and taken hostage by Hamas. So what are lawmakers doing to help some of those families here?
Biggest thing is to identify those who potentially have been kidnapped. I mentioned earlier that U.S. forces are not going to be involved. What I meant by that, we're not going to go in and use our troops with Israel in the actual war. But if there are U.S. citizens being held within Gaza, it's not inconceivable that we could use special forces to try and get them out. So we want to get the people out who we can, and we certainly want to get clear information to all of the families as soon as possible as to what happened to their loved ones and where they are now.
And Congressman, the Biden administration has made aid for Ukraine a point of emphasis, sending massive amounts of money there. Will we see similar aid packages sent to Israel now?
Yeah, that's the big challenge. We want to have a supplemental aid package for Ukraine and also for Israel. There are some other issues in terms of meeting our national security needs, replenishing stocks of weapons. This is what the House needs to do. This is why it's so problematic what was going on in the House of Representatives. The then Speaker McCarthy refused to bring this type of supplemental package up. Now, of course, we don't even have a speaker. We need to bring this package up in the House and the Senate to meet our national security needs as soon as possible. That's one of the big jobs we have when we get back to Washington, D.C. this week.
Congressman Smith, earlier in our broadcast, we heard President Trump say that this could lead to World War III, that it should be taken this seriously. Put this into perspective with your experience. Where do you think this stands on the world stage right now? How concerned should everyone be?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say that that's former President Trump, which is kind of an important point given what's going on. But look, it's a very serious situation. I don't think it helps to be, throwing out alarmist comments like World War III. But look, this is part of a larger challenge. Iran is working with Russia on the war in Ukraine. There is direct links between Iran and Russia and what China might be doing in terms of working with Iran and Russia as well. This is a broader problem than just Gaza. I think that's absolutely true. We need to comprehensively respond to this, work with partners and allies in the region and throughout the world to maintain peace and stability globally. It's a big challenge, no question.
And thank you so much for joining us, Congressman Adam Smith.